in 50 years from now, more of history of satellite to that event and the moment because of this of the occasion, leave tonight with again all around Neetin Gupta joining a United States. She's a NASA scientist. Dhaka DRDO with us in our studios. So DRDO scientist Vyas from Hyderabad, the world space Arjuna Das, senior journalist, witnesses in our studio. The former director of ISRO state, us in the Chandrayaan aerospace, one of other aerospace scientists, Karth, director of ISRO scientist, were drafting up to cities with Dr. Neeta said, Madam, very good morning to you for India will be little city. When it comes to tremendousness, I big achievement has been done below. But it's really for the man. And at a time when, of course, we have potential space flight very soon, later ambition have happened in the United States about fear we are doing affordable, should we do it? How in the track record of being able to say at her cost and if it's balance this way beyond this one conversations on news channels about things philosopher for this is live demonstration not only making India India because going on is attached with that being demo and being shown to the entire world as to India can and to in a cost lesser than us. And in 2007 when started off, it was supposed to give the more complex thing that is the soft lander, but after they had some problems with their Mars program, 2015 we took a decision that okay, we take that on as well by ourselves. And today is the day when it has arrived, wherein we have been able to take the all the three segments of this entire mission together.
And just for the sake of our viewers, at the bottom of your screens, extreme right, those are the people who are behind this launch. So, hat tip to them. And on the left side of the screen is what the payload is. It's a 2.3 ton orbiter with a lander, and the lander, of course, has a 6-wheel rover inside it. Arjun Ardas has been a journalist for 20 odd years. Arjun, now all of this has been done before. The moon landing has been done before. The rovers on an extraterrestrial planet have been done before. Interest in other parts, the popular interest in other parts of the globe has waned. Why should India be excited?
The excitement is more looking towards the potential, what this is capability of. and 20th July is coming up, the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. In those days, people were, the conditions were the same, more or less, in other parts of the world. America did not exactly have a $21 trillion economy, etc. So people were talking, if the same questions could be raised as are raised in India today, that is it worthwhile, is it cost effective, there are social issues, whether you can launch a space mission, moon mission. But people were excited. Even the Russians and the Chinese, who were not exactly on talking terms with America at that time, didn't go live, but they reported that man has landed on the moon. It made a big difference. And I'll tell you one story which is most interesting is the Vietnam War was not going well. And one of the astronauts who was there on the Buzz Aldrin, his course mate from his flying course was a POW in Vietnam. Well, the radio reported that the moon is, Americans have landed on the moon. That man walked up to one of his Vietnamese guards, pointed to the moon. He says, there are Americans up there. You can't win this war.
And just imagine the feeling of that. Same thought to you, Ravinder Sachdev. Just the feeling of the moment. I mean, we have lived the moment. What's the feeling of the moment, Ravinder Sachdev? Can you hear me, sir? Okay, I'm guessing not. Colonel, Professor Dhaka, why don't you take that thought?
Yeah, I think really we are excited, and because we could see that it's only like 1 hour left. And then we are going to...
Yeah, it's happening now. It's happening. All the preparation time is over.
Yeah. So it's really exciting, and because, as mentioned, my colleague here sitting, that because it's a proud moment for India, and especially the scientific community should be congratulated for all doing this wonderful job, and things are indigenously designed. And of course, like all three components, especially the orbiter, and then the launching system, and then rover, and then all, means they are going very well.
And we're going to come and discuss each and bit of that. But just what's your gut feeling right now, sir? What's your gut feeling?
It would be wonderful.
Okay, it's going to be good. Just watching it. You know, it's almost. I don't want to liken it per se, but there was a moment, immediately after Pokhran, because of the technical expertise of what was done. And in a country, when it gets a new metro system, it becomes something of celebration. This is literally and metaphorically in a whole different orbit. What are you feeling tonight, sir, as an Indian who served this country?
Yeah, Rishabh, you are feeling on top of the world. Remember that we are the 4th country which will be doing a soft landing on the moon. And that too on the southern pole. So no one has ventured. That is only North Pole and also on the equator. The reason is that there the landing was much easier. In southern pole, it is much more craters. Second thing is that why we have picked up the southern pole is because there we are thinking the water molecules can be there. Because the temperature remains much lower. And we have picked up that area so that it helps us our future assignment if we have to do it. So therefore, as far as India is concerned, we have made this Chandrayaan-2 totally indigenous. There is no foreign component in that. Second thing is what they are going to do it, no one else has done in the world. Remember, the NASA is also sent one payload. So this is first time where NASA is sending a payload any other foreign satellite. So India in a big way has arrived and arrived for good. And mind you that future of Indian space research is in right hand. And what will happen is that if this mission is successful, that it will be a launch pad for going toward Mars and for carrying out
surrounded by scientists, I don't want to cross my fingers, but a little bit of superstition is allowed, and I'm going to. The tricky part, of course, is not going to be the GSLV launch, which is happening tonight. That we've nailed several times. I remember being live on television when the GSLV experiment, which was an important experiment to get a geosynchronous satellite, which is basically rotating at the same speed as the Earth, so it seems to the particular spot on the physical planet, it remains in exactly the same spot when that blew up. And I think that was 8 or 9 years ago, and here we are. The GSLV is now a stable ship. The landing is going to be the first time, so probably a lot trickier. Colonel Dinesh, I'm waiting, of course, for that first live shot, and I'm hoping ISRO gives it to us. From the moon, of the actual orbiter which is going to be going around the moon, taking a shot of the lander heading down. It's going to be an exciting thing. I know we're 2 months away, but the launch is happening tonight, and I'm trying to control my excitement, however sleepy all of us are. What are you thinking, Colonel?
Well, Rishabh, you know it, that's going to happen around 6th of September.
Yeah.
But now, presently, I'm just thinking about T minus, I think, 48 now.
Yeah.
And T minus 30 seconds, 30. I think the project director, as you can say, women empowerment,
Yes.
is going to give a nod for this lovely thing to take off. And with all Indians feeling proud about it.
Yeah, hopefully
Now,
all
I
systems
think
go.
everybody must be checking around.
And we don't want to see too much thunderstorm and lightning. Okay, but let me be a journalist
Yeah.
and I don't want to dampen anybody's
But
spirit.
what I would like-
Yeah, finish your thought, Colonel. Finish your thought.
But what I would like to tell you here is that today is the day when 4 or 5 things are going to be proved. One is the indigenous aircraft, indigenous spacecraft which we are sending now in the form of a GSLV taking off the payload. Everything, each and everything Indian. Secondly, Indian flag is going to be there on the moon somewhere on 6th September. Third, estimated cost of this project, everybody is shocked. It is merely around 100 to 140 million US dollars. Whereas other people have been spending more than $500 million on each project.
Yeah.
Fourthly, the scientists of Indian scientists are going to really prove their mettle today, and which we all will see. God bless.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, fingers crossed.
These are the various factors which I am looking at right now and crossing my fingers that everything goes well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, just stay with me, Colonel Arjun. Let me come in before I get in Dr. Sengupta back into this conversation. Now, you spend a lot of time traveling the globe, right?
Yes.
And what has changed in the perception when we do these things? Because I've been talking about this for the past 1 week. That infamous New York Times cartoon of the Indian in a dhoti with a cow trying to go to space. Has that perception dynamically changed?
Okay, that's an interesting point. It's interesting because, for example, there has been both sides have happened. Both sides of the argument can be brought forward. British online papers continue with the same line. Okay, they're doing. Oh, this launch is being funded by us. Despite maybe there were 100 million which goes to NGOs and all that, but they've got this thing in their heads that British aid is provided. Why do the Indians need to launch a satellite or launch this, go to space when they still take aid from us? So this is a sort of a consistent policy. On the other hand, a few years ago, you remember the journalist, I think Thomas Friedman. He wrote this book, Nexus.
If you remember it from The World is Flat, yes.
And what he mentioned is that he said earlier it used to be where Indian children were told, finish your food, or rather American children were told, finish your food because they're Indians starving. Today he said, as he wrote in his book, he says, finish your homework because there are Indians waiting to take your jobs from you. There has been a perceptive difference. People, the same old concept of, do you go to school on a camel or a elephant?
It hasn't changed. Some of it remains.
Some of it remains. But those who prefer not to change.
No, but you're right. Those who prefer not to change. But are there people you're meeting who are saying, actually what? I don't know how you guys are doing this for Sochi.
They are. I was in Germany a short while ago, and there were people who had heard about this launch. They knew this thing was happening. And they were saying, we hope one day that we can collaborate
because
together.
Let's face it, this is going to be back page material for a lot of the foreign press, and I want to come back to that. But let me quickly rope in a young scientist, Rishi Singh, joining us on the broadcast. Rishi, good morning to you. And on that perceptorial thing, and it often comes, and the reason we have this conversation is because we look for as well, which we shouldn't. We need to stop. We look for some sort of pat on the back by people who withheld technology from us for a very long time, who have put ISRO under sanctions. Because they really don't.
Other countries, non-spacefaring nations like Israel, Thailand, let's say, countries like that, who would prefer to use Indian rockets, launch vehicles, on a more cost-effective basis.
Okay.
It's nothing about technical
understanding. I'm going to interrupt you for a second because we have live developments coming from Sriharikota. I believe that the countdown has been put on a temporary hold. There has been some technical check that they put the countdown on a hold for. I have, of course, 2 colleagues who are there at the Mission Control Center in Sriharikota, who will be joining us live on the broadcast to get us that minute-by-minute update. So that's a quick update. We'll keep tracking that. How many minutes that affects the countdown, we don't yet know, and we'll come back to this. General Asana, the reality is that both for commercial reasons, geopolitical reasons, and reasons of perceptorial power, which are very real things in the world, a lot of people are kind of hoping across the world that this doesn't work out.
People have their own interests to hope that it doesn't work out, because obviously once it works out, they all feel that whenever any kind of rules and regulations are made for the space and for using the land space of moon, at that point of time, whenever the rules of business are being made, India will also be sitting on the high table to make those rules.
Okay, so here's here's the problem, and I particularly want to address this one by one. Colonel Dinesh can come in on this. The reality is that on other realms of fifth industrial revolution front like tech, we are far behind. We don't manufacture silicon chips in this country. AI, we are far behind. 5G, we don't have a company that's competitive on 5G. It's not being manufactured. You have to buy it from somebody else, either from the Swedes or the Koreans or the Chinese. When it comes to frontline biotechnology, we are far behind. When it comes to 3D printing, it's a novelty here. When Boeing is manufacturing aircraft part of 3D printers, this is the one space which is going to be maybe a $600 billion market in the coming couple of decades, which we can nail. Colonel Nain.
Rishabh, you see, not only this, if you see that the IT sector also, which was started by Rajiv Gandhi ji, the ex-Prime Minister, we have taken a leap. But yes, definitely in last 70 years, the way when we got independence and since then, I think our country has been doing a tremendous job. With all the drawbacks which we had when we got independence.
No, but they have, you know, and you know, I don't want to be pouring warm water on this, but the IT sector leap was doing back-end operations. We have to start inventing things ourselves. Mugilan, my colleague, joining us, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Live from Sriharikota's Mission Control Center. Mugilan, what's the hold up?
So what we could hear now is that the mission has been deferred due to a technical snag, because the timers have went free. The screen which was displaying the rocket has also gone completely blank. The visuals which we are running now, which very clearly shows that the timer has been stopped. That is, the countdown timer for Chandrayaan-2 has been stopped now, with what we are getting to hear from the ISRO sources.
Okay, do we know whether this is a technical problem with the rocket, with the launch systems? Is there a weather problem? Any information that's come our way?
No, there is no clear-cut reason has been given from ISRO. What officials saying is now, what we could hear from the ISRO scientists and officials is that there is a technical problem, is what we are getting to hear. As of now, there is a technical problem and the launch will not go as scheduled.
Okay, nobody wants to, of course, press the button on a 1,000 crore rocket without being absolutely certain that is going to do what it does. And GSLV generally has been a pretty reliable workhorse now for ISRO. So has the PSLV, which has even better track record, because this is a bigger rocket, more powerful, and therefore can put the system into Earth orbit and slingshot it down to the moon. But on the larger question, this is the one place where we can nail it. Arjun, can we make space a profitable business in India?
Yes, it can. Yes, we can. The one, however, step which is we are getting there, still not there, is heavy lift vehicles. The GSLV is the best that we have so far.
So it's about 4 tons, 4 or 5 tons?
4 to 8 tons. It depends. Low Earth orbit is about 8 tons. Higher geosynchronous orbit is about 4 tons. Approximately. Now, a privately funded ship, launch vehicle, like the Falcon Heavy, lifts, that is, I think, Elon Musk's machine, lifts currently 43 tons. We've got to get somewhere there before we can actually get to the commercial.
Per kilogram is even cheaper. Yes.
So we have a few steps more to go. This is, of course, just a proving step. This hasn't,
Okay, we know Elon Musk has put a car in space, but he put a lot of satellites in space. So slightly better track record. But well, I wonder if Dr. Sen Gupta can still hear us. Ma'am, what is the assumption here? Would a NASA, for example, in just your personal opinion, be looking at the fact that there is a working machine with a high success rate worth putting very expensive satellites into for an orbit? Okay, I don't know if Dr. Sen Gupta can hear us either. My producers, of course, are also having an early morning. But that is the countdown clock, and that's a photograph of the countdown clock that reporters just sent us. It's been stopped at 56 minutes 24 seconds. Now, this has been stopped for a few minutes now, so obviously there is a delay. I don't know whether deferment is of minutes, hours, or days, because once we start going into, Professor Dhaka, beyond a particular launch window, then you have to start redoing all your calculations again.
Yeah, you are right. I think there is a very specific window. I think in this case it was like few hours, and that was the appropriate time. And because if we cross that, then naturally then we have to reschedule the things. But right now, probably, I think we are hoping that maybe it's a small snack and it's not lasting long.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But like I said, nobody wants to press the button and be absolutely sure. And there are, of course, systemic checks going on. But at 56 minutes, that countdown clock has stopped. And of course, if it misses the launch window, then a recalculation has to be done. And that recalculation could be a few days, or in fact, could be a few weeks. Depending on when the next launch window opens up, because you have X amount of fuel, and those calculations of your slingshots, your gravitational slingshots, have to be very precise on the basis of the Earth's position, the rotational position, the position of the moon, with comparison to Sriharikota. All of that calculation have to be redone, and that, of course, is an easier exercise with computers these days, but not so easy. Okay, let's look at the exact reason why this is being done. Also, why are we, General Asthana, wanting to go to the moon? I mean, there is a scientific reason, but the scientific reason isn't earth consuming.
There are a lot of reasons as far as, firstly, the scientific, they have already been covered in the news for quite many days now. But there are some other reasons as well. The kind of technologies which are being used, all those technologies have got some other usage as well. Whether it is in the form of the SAR technology, whether it is in the form of, shall we say, the infrared spectroscopy, whether it is in the form of all these technologies have got some other uses, including military uses. Now, when we send and explore these technologies in some other planet, the competence of our systems and the technology, that also gets proved.
So it's about path breaking. It's about path breaking. Professor Dhaka, come in quickly. Before I'm hoping Srishti is back with us, so I'm going to bring her in just a second. What is the path breaking, sir? Coming to you. What's the path breaking part of this?
I think there are few very good instruments which we are going to use them on the.
Okay, let's talk about them. There's a laser-induced spectrometer.
Yeah, exactly. Spectrometer, especially the ionosphere.
And then you have a mineral analyzer. Now, why are these important to us?
Yeah, because immediately you can.
Spectrometry, of course, is not new science.
Yeah, it's not new science, but of course on the surface what kind of the components and the elements they are present there, and in which capacity, what is the intensity, which particular element is in more abundant in comparison to other.
But what is the ancillary, General Asthana, what is the ancillary tech that comes? Because obviously you're a military man. We saw a demonstration of the military ancillary tech that came out with Mission Shakti just hardly a few weeks ago. That is obviously an ancillary tech. The very fact that you can launch these rockets therefore gives you ICBM capability. What's the ancillary tech that comes out of this?
See,
General Asthana, take that, then General Sivaj.
Okay. You see, what does all these technologies, they have got other applications as well. So as the technology matures, you can get on to the other applications.
Give us examples. What will be the application?
Like SAR technology.
Yes.
Now, this technology has got amount of the kind of surveillance which we need in today's world, and to fight the warfare,
so
that is important.
So General
then space warfare by itself.
Okay, so General Sivaj, the ability to take out a satellite hopefully technically gives you the ability to take out incoming missiles also, which is missile defense. Space surveillance is something General Asthana has mentioned, which is crucially very important. You increase the resolution, you make it real time, you make it cloud penetrating. These are game changers when it comes to ancillary military tech out of this.
Rishabh, remember that the next war is going to be fought in space, and space is.
Well, we're hoping that never happens. We are not.
The point is that remember that whenever this is happening, afterward you are making use of space. Space is unlimited. Now, when you are using this anti-satellite or no, what is this? A satellite or a missile is coming and making use of space, and therefore we have already, as a defense forces, we have already started off this cyber and space divisions. We know it, the importance of space. He started off the cyber and space divisions. We know it, the importance of space, because this can be used and misused by your adversary. And what is happening today is that we are very much alert and alive. Other countries are your competitors. No one is going to give you any help. It is you have to do it yourself.
So this is the future.
So the point is, Rishabh, if you have to manufacture or you have to explore the space or you have to go to the moon, no one else is going to help. You have to help yourself.
Okay, Dr. Rita Gupta, the future, of course, of space is now in the private sector, both of launch and, of course, the maximum number of satellites that are being put up in space are not by NASA or the European Space Agency or by the Russians or by us. They are private sector satellites, micro satellites and whatnot that are being put up in the dozens. Now, in a private sector space, it comes down to simple economics. In economics, if we have a successful space agency here in India, what kind of private sector innovation could that potentially spawn?
Me, Dr. Sengupta. So I believe there are several different things that we can think about. One is obvious, which is telecommunications. So whatever we can do to facilitate telecommunications from higher bandwidth perspective benefits the Indian economy, because any fintech can be shared throughout the globe. I actually think the untapped area from a space-based business case perspective is based off of space-based power. That space-based power can either come from networks around Earth or even power created on the moon and then beamed back to Earth either via laser or microwave. So from a telecommunications perspective and from a space-based power
Dr. Nita, I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. We have some unfortunate news coming our way. My colleague Mugilan is joining us on the broadcast. Mugilan, if my voice is reaching you, I've just been told that the launch has been now called off. What information do you have?
Maybe we don't know, maybe like one day.
Yes, by 1:55 when the country was awaiting to see the launch of
So what's the information, Mugilan? What is the information that we have right now?
Yeah, at 1:55 is what the announcement was made from the control center, stating that due to a technical snag, the launch has been called off, and a new date for the launch will be announced later. So the entire process has been stopped now. Even the timers, the countdown timers which are running here in the media gallery has been freed. The very big screen which was playing the visuals of Chandrayaan-2 also has been stopped now. So the launch has been called off due to a technical snag.
So we're expecting a press briefing from ISRO coming up shortly, and like I said, you don't want to press that button until you're absolutely sure that it's not going to blow up on the launch pad. Whether this is a delay of a few hours, few days, or even few weeks, so we'll soon find out very shortly. Dr. Anita, I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. If you can enlighten just a lay viewer watching this broadcast early in the morning of how complicated launch windows are. How do launch windows work, ma'am?
So it depends upon where you're trying to go. So if you're doing a launch for around Earth, that's a lot easier. But for something for a lunar transit, that's a lot more complicated. So they'll have to wait until they've redone the calculations if they are going to truly delay the launch for a few hours.
Professor Dhaka, I'm presuming these calculations are not happening on the back of an envelope. So I'm presuming the computer systems that would be generating potential launch windows over a period of week, and then matching them with weather data and rotational and gravimetric data, and it's all.
There are many things. In fact, as you are right, because there are many things, especially like weather things, and we are having the radar nearby at Tirupati. There is a station. Is a National Atmospheric Research Laboratory. They operate that radar. It's a VHF band radar. And 10 days before and continuously and provide the wind profile, and so that you can calculate the stress when the launch system goes up. So how much thrust is needed basically. So all these things will change if the profile
so we are I don't want to go into wild speculation obviously, but we've been discussing the GSLV. Let me just discuss the GSLV for a second, because that's the launch vehicle right now. Arjun, the GSLV of course was a path breaker, principally because of that cryogenic engine, and the cryogenic engine was a huge deal. Other countries have tried to build a cryogenic engine, have not been successful. We managed it, and we've had successful GSLV launch. Okay, live visuals coming from ISRO as we speak. Arjun, take that thought. Cryogenic engine, why was that so important in creating this GSLV?
Bahubali.
Bahubali, with Vikram on board, yes, literally.
Okay, there is one thing that I would like to, those of us who remember the days from the early 90s when we had this problem with this whole controversy with the cryogenic engine. The Russians had promised to give us 7 engines when the Americans under Clinton put a sanctions on India. And the reason officially given was that cryogenics will be used, the engine will be used to provide ICBM capability for India. Complete nonsense. The cryogenic is meant to be used only in outer space. It is not meant for ballistic use.
In terms, what you mean is it's difficult for re-entry. You can't really use it for re-entry. That's the explanation for that. Yes.
Besides that,
Dr. Rita is smiling. I'm sure she's hacked the re-entry part of it. Ma'am, coming to you in a second. Arjun, finish your thought.
Of course, and this particular rocket, and in its different versions, and a future version, of course, similar but different configuration, is going to be the one that will take our astronauts into space, hopefully in another 3 years.
Yeah, okay.
The cryogenic engine is the one that will fire in space. Now, this is satellite communication and placement, geostationary satellite communication, satellites, vehicles. This is the cryogenic engine that is the part of the whole rocket system, which will actually take your communication, your geostationary satellite to its orbit, which is 35,000
I'm going to come back to discuss the difference between this and the PSLV. Srishti, but before that, I just take the thought, we don't know, we're waiting for the ISRO press conference to happen. And you can see journalists are milling about now, so we are expecting the mission director and the chairman of ISRO to give us a press conference and explain to us what just happened. But Srishti, as a young person, into science, we always look for inspirational moments. The profession can be a bit of a drudgery otherwise, because it takes many, many years, if not decades, to have one successful project that might run for a few weeks, and then you spend many, many years just poring over data. How important are such epiphanous events?
Such events are very, very important. I mean, it's a very proud moment for all of us, and we are launching one of the heaviest rockets, built over 640 tons it's weighing. So GSLV Mark III we are launching. So it is a very proud moment, and when it's not launching, it might be due to some of the calculations they must be reconsidering. But apart from all of this, even if the date has changed, it's a very proud moment for us, because a lot of blood and sweat and young minds and experienced mind goes into all of this. A lot of calculations, a lot of experiences goes in all of this. So yes, it is a very proud moment instead of whatever.
Well, Srishti, I'm certainly hoping, and I'm pretty sure that this is not some.
We are all hoping.
Yeah, some multiplication error that's gone wrong. I can just imagine how upset my mom would have been, let alone the chairman of ISRO. But let me get Dr. Anita back into the conversation. Ma'am, you wanted to make a point about the cryogenic engine. Take that, then I have a question also.
Launch larger payloads. So being able to launch larger payloads to send people to the moon and to send people to Mars. And so it is actually really impressive that India was able to create cryogenic launch vehicle technology so quickly and able to demonstrate it.
Okay, so it is good. But as a person working on a space program, can you share with viewers watching here in India how painful it can be to spend literally decades and decades working on one particular project, which has a good chance of success, but sometimes it does blow up, and then spending decades going over data in which hopefully you win a Nobel Prize one day?
Yeah, of course.
Missions are typically 4 to 7 years in duration, and if you're able to accomplish that incredible feat only after 7 years, I actually think it's worth it. So I think from a career perspective, it's actually quite satisfying and intellectually stimulating.
Okay, it's actually stimulating, and of course we are going through another scientific phenomena, something called a feedback loop, which I'm hoping my producers can clear out of that Skype connection also. But Professor Dhaka, come back into this conversation, because what is important is what we have done, and it's great to feel good about what we have done. But what is quintessentially important is going out there and what we can do next. Now, how ambitious should we be? Because we have a history of conservatism in this country, sir.
Yeah. In fact, my feeling first, let me talk about what is happening right now.
Yeah.
As we are looking that there is some kind of like snag, but I think it's not a permanent problem. I'm pretty sure that the things will be resolved.
So we are Indian, a little bit of sellotape, and it's going to be sorted out.
But because the most important point, as all we know that the technology is one very important point. The PSLV and the GSLV, these are the two really big workhorse for us. They take our satellite into the space, and we are having a big, big market in Asia, especially the country like Singapore, and then they are looking for us and launching their, I think, satellite at a low cost.
Okay.
And then the most important point is, of course, which is left, probably we have not discussed about the science part. Because as you mentioned that probably we have not discussed about the science part. Because as you mentioned that once the satellite is launched, we need the young guys to use that satellite data.
Yeah, they'll have 14 days.
Yeah,
they'll have 14 days, and they'll be doing remote control driving. So it's an RC fanatic's dream. And pardon the pun, Dr. Anita, but you must have heard the NASA joke about how NASA wanted to invent a pen that works in space, and an Indian went up there and used a pencil instead. So we are known for our jugaad, so I'm sure we'll figure this one out as well. But Arjun, come in on this, because this is the real world, right? This is, I mean, we're talking about moment, and this is momentous, and and wow, and national pride, and of course, national pride may be deferred by a few days. So be it. We'll come back and have another midnight broadcast.
It is only for a day.
I will call you back. Okay, only for a day, hopefully. Can either Mugilan or Sabyasachi hear me from Sriharikota? Can you guys hear me? Do we have any information on how long the delay is for?
That's what is come out.
Mugilan, Sabyasachi, guys, can you hear me? Okay, they are getting phone lines now sorted out. We still have third world problems in this country. Mobile networks don't often work. Okay, Arjun, but in reality check. The reality check is this is a very important economic opportunity. And like I said, in a lot of sectors, we are far behind.
Right.
And a lot of our PSUs are not known for the best records, except ISRO.
Right, yeah, correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Arjun, come in,
Yeah.
Well, that is the surprise that everybody has. I mean, for example, in the aerospace industry, we have not been able to build a single jet engine for the last 40 years. Not one.
Okay, can you educate our viewers, because you have a background in this? Educate us that even in the Tejas you have to buy an engine from abroad. Yes.
Okay, jet engine is obviously is not a simple product to make. It
Yeah.
a lot of products, etc., designs and other things like that. India has been working on a particular, rather DRDO and other such allied organizations have been working on a particular jet engine called a Kaveri by the GTRE, and that engine has not yet flown, has not had a successful run for the last 40 years. We've been doing all our aircraft, including the Tejas, including other aircraft, are running on American or other imported engines.
So let alone civilian aircraft, which we are nowhere near making, because
yet we manufacture these. Is
the dichotomy? Colonel Len, coming to you in just a second. Colonel General Sivas, come in on this, sir, because the dichotomy is mind-boggling.
How do they do it?
Absolutely. Rishabh, see, the point is that as far as the Indian scientists are concerned, as far as space, your satellite is concerned, and your missiles are concerned. These are the two success stories as far as Indian scientists are concerned. Rest we are lacking it. But if we are good in this,
I'll probably put nuclear and
less expertise on this. And now what we were saying, the technical snag which has come, possibly it will be maybe a delay by a day.
Technical snag is part of life. I have technical snag.
What I was telling Rishabh is,
I'm pretty sure that teleprompter is going to fail any moment.
We should not worry on this, because the takeoff has not been a problem. It has been going on. My point is, the whole world is watching you. It is not the first time. We have already sent Chandrayaan #1. PSLV and GSLV, we are expert in that. Where the problem can occur is only on soft landing. And when
that's the part we haven't done before. So you literally have to gingerly
so we should not worry on as to how it takes off. It will take off smoothly. It can be a delay of a day or two. Remember that the three things which are very difficult in this mission is, one is once it leaves the Earth orbit and goes into a moon orbit, and then second thing is from the moon orbit when it do a soft landing, and then it comes back.
Yeah, I think the only two things we haven't done before is the separation in moon orbit, and of course the soft landing. And I'm sure there are some similes that it's like hitting the side of a paper from 5 kilometers away. I'm sure there's similes like that.
The takeoff is going to be smooth. Remember that there is not going to be any
problem. Not worried at all, Colonel. As a general, we're not worried about it. Let me get Colonel Nain into the Arjun, just one second. Let me get Colonel Nain into the conversation. Colonel Nain, we have to look at a larger picture, because there's an X factor missing, right? We have the brains, and there are people all over the world who are Indians who work in NASA, who work in the European Space Agency. We've already done okay with ISRO. We seem to be able to do jugaad enough to make it cheap. But there's an X factor missing, that private industry is not just jumping on board, and we're not creating these huge unicorns that can burn money for a few decades until they make a really big killing. How do we break that, Onion?
Well, Rishabh, I heard the other gentleman talking about India not being able to make a good jet engines. But I would like to draw some attention of all the panelists, whether I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but that's what my feeling is, that when we sent Chandrayaan-1, we had put high X-ray, energy X-rays into that.
Yes,
we had got terrain mapping, this thing, cameras in that. We had M3, the moon mineralogy mapping.
Yes,
we had so many equipment in that which we were having and which we had put in there. While the orbiter that time was orbiting the moon at 100 kilometers distance, all the scientists and the other ladies who are from NASA would agree with me that what happened, that America had to send L-cross satellite, that is a lunar crater observation and sensing satellite, in June 2009. And after that, the lunar reconnaissance orbiter of this particular satellite had a collaboration with your Chandrayaan-1, and both of them with their special S-band photography was doing the photography and mapping of the moon, and thereby they came to know that on the south pole, in the craters where the sunlight is slightly less, you are finding water in form of ice, and in the northern part of the moon, it is that this water is in a mix with the soil, and you can't just make out whether this frozen water is there in the soil or not.
Okay.
But this
come on, sir.
thing
We
which
can
India
spice it up. I'm sure we found some sign of alien civilization. They haven't told us, and we'll find out in 40 years, or somebody make a movie about it, certainly. Dark side of the moon could have been anything, sir. Okay, I'm just joking. I'm just going to hold you there because I want to go to my colleagues, Mugilan and
but what I'm saying
just
is,
a second, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just quickly, let's go to live to
which we have found out.
Yeah, Mugilan and Sabyasachi standing by. Guys, what's going on? What's happening on the ground there?
Yes, what we are getting to hear,
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of technical glitches, there you have it. That's called 4G network glitch. Okay, but we can hear you, gentlemen. Go ahead.
You have to wait for an official confirmation from the
sources, but the sources say the initial observation is that there was a technical snag identified when filling the cryogenic fuel in the rocket is what we're getting to hear.
Okay, so at least we know around where it happened, and of course technical snag can mean anything, but I'm guessing when they were, can I dumb it down, Arjun, and say when they were filling up the gas tank, they found they sprung a leak, something like that happened?
No, good point. And what actually, in a way, what you have said is absolutely correct, because now, for example, this is also a liquid fueled launch vehicle. Liquid fueled vehicles cannot be kept in storage. They have to be fueled up, and if the launch is scrubbed, it has to be defueled. The fuel has to be removed carefully. You cannot store it. It's a very unstable.
Yeah, it's unstable, and it
secondly,
what is it?
What I wanted to also, second, what I also wanted to, and yes, by the way, the story is that if you leave an ice cube inside the isolated fuel tanks, the insulated fuel tanks, it can stay. An ice cube will not melt for 8 years. They are that well insulated.
See, there you go, private application. I can think of so many bars that would love that.
Secondly, I wanted to just bring up one thing which you earlier mentioned, with the generals also mentioned about the difficulties in the main task, which we have done, of course, with Chandrayaan and with Mangalyaan, etc. Is the capture, lunar orbit. It has to be caught. How does it work? It has to reach the moon, and it has to fire an engine to slow the satellite down, so that braking.
Okay, that we made last time around. We got that.
It has to be done exactly for a duration of a specific time. Like in Apollo, it used to be 300.
It's the burn. We've seen the Apollo 13 movie. It's the burn. What about the burn?
And then you went to the orbit.
The moon. And that is how then you start circulating.
Okay, it has to be captured. Okay, but we are doing all sorts of gravitational sync shots. I believe it's when it does go up, it's going to spend about almost the better part of a month in near Earth orbit, gaining that momentum in speed. Why can't we, Professor Dhaka, just go straight? Yeah, for lay viewers, why can't we just go zoom? There's the moon, we see it, aim for it, put it in the crosshair.
You cannot.
That's what the Apollo 13 guys did, right? They put it in the crosshair and then just said, let's just go for it.
Slow down.
We cannot, because you cannot overcome the gravity of the Earth suddenly, because this has to go slowly and it has to take a elliptical path, and then finally it has to enter to the gravity of the moon, and so that's
I see some activity happening. Do we have sound there from Sriharikota?
Technically technical snag was observed in launch vehicle system at T-minus 56 minutes. Okay.
आप शुभांकर शायद लाइव देख पा रहे हो कि ऑफिशियल ब्रीफिंग के लिए
Sorry, there was a car that a technical snag was observed in launch vehicle system at T-minus 2 minutes. As a measure of abundant precaution, Chandrayaan-2 launch has been As a measure of abundant precaution, Chandrayaan-2 launch has been called off for today. Revised launch date will be announced later. Thank you very much. This is an announcement from ISRO which I have read out. That's all. Please. Now read it again. Okay, I will read it again. 1 minute. I will read it again. Yeah. This announcement from ISRO I am reading once again. A technical snag was observed in the launch vehicle system at T-minus 56 minutes. As a measure of abundant precaution, Chandrayaan-2 launch has been called up for today. Revised launch date will be announced later. Thank you very much.
Out of this tonight, technical snack could of course mean anything. Our reporters who are joining us live on the broadcast have been indicating that it might have something to do with the cryogenic engine, which incidentally of course is the most sensitive part, the most complex part of this entire process, because the solid rocket boosters and of course things have been up and around for decades. I would love to compare the solid rocket booster to a firecracker that goes up on Diwali, but I'm sure a lot of scientists sitting here are going to be very upset if I make that rather simplistic comparison. So a bit of anticlimax, especially we woke up for this and we saw the World Cup match and you going, oh yeah, next India is going to reach the moon. Sorry guys for the anticlimax. We'll have to come back of course another day. But since we're here and we're all awake and had our cup of coffees which have been delivered to us, let's quickly address a few things before we wrap up. Arjun, let me start with you. Let me go along the panel. What do we, as a country that needs to generate employment, grow our GDP and become a superpower, need to now do? What needed to happen yesterday that we haven't done?
Scientific education, scientific training. This is not, ISRO is still relatively isolated. They have people, they have brilliant people, but the numbers are not enough. We need technical, scientific, practical applications, people who can do practical work. Theory, everybody is brilliant at. As we say in India, Gyan is available from everybody. But the actual practical work of actually working in a workshop, getting things done, building things with your hand.
Building things. So actually have universities building rockets rather than building blueprints. Okay, same thought to you, Professor Dhaka.
Yeah, exactly, because being in the university, I can understand there is a less linkages with the industry, less linkages.
If I'm not mistaken, you were telling me you teach physics. Is it mostly theoretical physics?
We teach both, because my specialization is space physics and we do satellite observations, radar and all, and of course the basic science in the lab.
Okay.
So along with this, because I have this gut feeling, we do not have a very proper arrangement with the industry, and so that industry can support to the university.
So let me simplify this in Big Bang Theory terms. You need both a Sheldon and a Leonard to get into space. Just one person can't do it. All these things are important. Same thought to you, General Sibach. What do we need to do to get things done? Now, things needed to happen yesterday.
First and foremost thing is we cannot depend upon import of items which are of a technical in future.
Yes.
R&D is the key word. Let's spend some money on R&D and develop this technology ourselves. The technology which is state of art, no one is going to give you in future. It has been seen, even Russia has not given you this time. And we have to make it ourselves. My point is, Rishabh, the issue is that if we want to be a champion in space, let us spend some money on R&D and develop this scientific
But the logic is, why should they? Why should they not running a parity workshop? Why
and
should
we don't have lack of scientists. We don't have lack of scientists. 60% of NASA scientists are Indian origin.
Okay.
So therefore we have a brain.
I don't know that fact is true now, but what the hey? At this time in the morning in India, 60% is all Indians. 60% of spelling bee winners in the US are also all Indians. Quickly, General Asthana.
Okay. Now, I have slightly different experience on this issue. You see, India does not lack the brain power. It's the same brain power being used all over. I had 3 tenures in United Nations. Will you believe it? that in the communication hub of United Nations in Brindisi, I was posted there, the entire communication hub is being manned by Indians. So the fact is that whether it is 40% or 60% in NASA, it is our guys who are doing it. And they are doing it all over the world.
Okay.
The problem where is when we are in India is that R&D costs money. In private sector, unless you have a sure short income, he cannot invest that much.
But why? Why not? But why not? Elon Musk is burning money. He's burning billions of dollars per year. He's just burning it. There's no returns to show for it.
No, I agree with you. But the question is that whenever we are looking at private sector getting into most of the projects, the manufacturing projects.
Okay.
Because the problem is that technical manufacturing is not happening here.
Okay, no, I agree with you. We don't make a silicon chip, you don't make a silicon chip, okay?
So
it's one is everything that you use, you don't make a silicon chip. It's a fundamental problem.
Now to make, you need R&D. For R&D, you need money. Without firm order, private sector is...
Let me get Dr. Anita back in this conversation.
is important.
But everything can't be government. I disagree with that. Everything can't be government. ISRO is government. We can't do more government. Dr. Anita, the two generals have already revealed to you the plan B for Team India, which is to quietly take over NASA from the inside. So while we're working on that, practical thing, how is it, the people like you and other people of Indian origin, we win all the spelling bees and we have the brains, but there's been an X factor missing. What is that? I mean, we're not a poor country in the sense that we were 20 years ago, certainly. So what's the X factor missing?
Is that for, who is that for?
That's for you, Dr. Anita, that's for you, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so, well, I actually would agree with what the gentleman said before, which is it really isn't up to the government, it's up to the private sector. So I think the solution for India is to invest its private sector capital in things like infrastructure development, whether that's from a mobility perspective, for a telecommunications perspective, and energy infrastructure. So I think if R&D is spent in those areas, it will revolutionize society, create jobs, and we'll be able to sell that technology overseas as well.
Okay,
so
I was hoping you would say that we need a couple of eccentric billionaires who just want to burn money and do crazy stuff like sending cars into space, but maybe we'll find them. We have very conservative billionaires in this country. We have plenty of them, but very conservative ones. Srishti, what's the difference between you going out with a CV and looking for a job and not starting your own space tech firm? What's the difference? What would make you do the latter?
Money.
I would want to start it because, looking at India, what you guys are just discussing right now is what we are lacking. So I would want to address that first. So according to me, we are lacking the vocation of it. It's too much theoretical. There is too much theoretical knowledge and everything. But where we are lacking basically is no vocational training for that. We need to spend more or give more exposure to some science, research and the technology, so that people are more and more interested in it and go for it, because it needs a bit of exposure. The theoretical thing is not enough, according to me. So yeah.
Okay. Too much theory. Arjun Ardas, I studied physics in school. I was not launching any rockets.
Shall I? There is a common myth which runs is that the moon program in the United States began when President Kennedy made his speech about we shall go to the moon.
Yeah, what a speech.
Okay, which is now that, believe it or not, the research and development of moon rockets had started far before that speech. The Americans were not even able to launch, send a man to the moon in 1969, barely 8 years or so after the speech.
Come on, Arjun, when they went into Berlin and got all the German rocket technology.
Before that. But the point is, and many of these companies, whether it's Rocketdyne, etc., are all private companies building rockets for NASA.
So yeah,
it started then. This is the point which
we are doing it also. We are doing it also. So the rover has been built by IIT Kanpur team. Well, at least they supervised it. There's a private company that's helping build the lander also. Parts of it. It's happening. I was doing a debate hardly 2 weeks ago, Arjun, on Deepika Padukone, angel investing in an ISRO company that's making stuff for ISRO. Now she's not an eccentric billionaire, unfortunately. She's got X that she can earn from movies. And we do spend less on space launches in India than many American movies like Star Wars. But there's an X factor missing, Arjun. Help us isolate it so at least we can track it.
Yeah. See, one factor I must say, it may not go down well with a lot of people, is this jugaad has to stop. Accept, look for quality, and insist on quality. Accepting that, okay, fine, as you of course made a joke, but let's say if the rocket is not launching, let's just put a sellotape on it and make it. No, it should.
Yeah, but we have
standards.
They also have their duct tape.
That's true, but the point is about what standards.
And in Apollo 13, the duct tape saved.
The duct tape helped.
Yeah.
But the standards have to reach that point where nothing less than 100% perfection has to be accepted. Nothing less than 100% perfection has to be accepted.
Okay, nothing less than 100%. Okay, yeah, quickly. Professor Dhaka, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, because I would like to comment on like our young scientists sitting there. You mentioned that we should create jobs. Then what should be the way for it? Because especially like in the weather forecasting system, the government of India, like Indian Meteorological Department is the only agency which could send informations for the weather. But now like SkyMet is a private agency and then it's getting a lot of data from the different stations and they are having the, I think, very wide audience. And now similarly, of course, I remember about like 10 years ago when I was in Yonsei University, Korea, and I found the 4 students after completion of their doctorate degree, they started their own company and they were providing information, turbulence and all.
It's happening in IITs, it's not happening elsewhere. The reality is we leave college CV in hand. We don't leave college entrepreneurs in hand. Okay, Colonel Nain, come in, then I need to get into General Sivach also. Colonel Nain, go ahead.
Rishabh, I would like to just make a point here that from the government point of view, if you look at from Indian perspective of R&D, we are just spending 0.6% of the GDP, whereas America spends 2.5%, where their economy is very, very huge. Secondly, like we have got CSR kind of a, this thing system being followed by the private sector. Now let me tell you one thing, that the 1% of Indians are holding 22% of the India's wealth with them. Like 1% of Americans are holding 15% of America's wealth.
Yeah, but
so government policies can be made whereby they are forced to invest certain money.
The research, right? Because they want to make money now. I don't think CSR spending or the government passing a law to spend X percentage of your profits on R&D isn't going to help us. The people want to make money out of it. It has to be market driven, no?
Well, Rishabh, kuch to karna padega na. You got to do something on this, na.
Okay,
you got to do something.
Isn't doing it. We need to give a boot of the private sectors behind.
Yeah, see, it's a case of now it's a modern area of expert. The point is that today private sector has to be given a confidence.
Yes.
You know, the government has to give the confidence.
What do you mean by confidence?
My point is that even case if we are trying to take private sector, I'll give you a small example. Now the K9 Vajra, which has been taken a self-propelled gun from Korea. Now this is a collaboration with Mahindra. And we have taken M777 from America. I am only saying that you must give encouragement to private sector. Give them a business. Let them spend some money on R&D.
So what should we do? What should the government come out and say, okay guys, here's a $50 billion pot that we spend on defense. It's yours if you take it. Is that what we do?
Absolutely correct. You show them the road. They will produce the thing. After all, they are going to produce. I'm trying to convey, you have a strength in your private sector. Utilize them for future.
That is longevity. No, but the longevity, I have a serious question on this. Arjun, we have billionaires in this country, you can afford it, but what is stopping them from saying that, you know, hang on, I'm going to start building 6G tech now, which is only going to pay off 20 years later, for which I'll probably have to spend $20 billion and I won't see a return for 20 years. But you know what, hey, when it happens, it'll be worth $1 trillion.
Let's also put it this way. We have seen enough examples where the government, for example, there's a product which has been built by a private company. The government says, sorry, we don't want it. They would rather import a product.
So the whole money is dumped.
So the money is dumped. The fellow doesn't see any incentive.
That's where you are doing
incentive. Okay. General.
There are two things. Firstly, you have to have public-private partnership. That is one way to go. Secondly, encourage the collaboration of private sector with the outsiders who have already spent a lot of money on the R&D, and we have to make rules in a manner that the collaboration works. And this is what is this is what is happening in India.
But I'm trying to figure out how many firms, and I don't know if Colonel Nair is with us, but I'm coming back to you in a second, but how many firms, Arjun, are we popping out of our IIT campuses? I know we are popping out some, but at the rate that they pop them out of MIT campuses and Stanford campuses and the professor startup companies, and it's now happening in China, they're doing the same companies, the universities are setting up companies.
Yes.
It's not happening here, let's be honest.
It's an incentive. The very simple thing, incentive. If this man who spent about, say, 5 years in an IIT, his basic BTech degree, and then he does an MTech, let's say, something like that.
And then he goes to MIT, that's what happens.
No, what he decides to do, that suppose he is patriotic enough to say, I will set up a company here.
Yeah.
End result is he prepares a product. Now, you've got this example in Bangalore recently, just a couple of weeks ago, where this young boy, who's probably 16 years old, has developed an app which is very popular with the people in Bangalore, about something to do with Bangalore buses or something like that. The Bangalore bus,
sorry guys.
Not a dating app. The Bangalore Bus Corporation, to whom it is helping, this app is helping those people, have decided to pull out all support from it.
No, but where is the kid? No, here, I can tell you, if I want to start a company, it's almost impossible. Just to open a bank account is such a pain in the
that's another thing.
Where's my Kickstarter? Okay, Dr. Anita's been wanting to come in, ma'am. Sorry, just go ahead. What do you want to say?
This is something that's near and dear to my heart because I ended up leaving NASA 2 years ago to go into the private sector, and now I'm an entrepreneur myself. So it actually is quite difficult to be someone who starts out I have an aerospace aviation company without being a very wealthy person like an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos. So that problem of insufficient capital for engineers to start their own companies is a global problem. And so I can't really comment on how much harder it is in the US versus India, but I think what that means is that we need to encourage banks, private equity, high net worth individuals to invest in technologies that benefit society and advance society at large. And so I think that's a public conversation.
Can I ask you, ma'am, a personal question? Is why did you make that change? What did you see in terms of opportunity that you decided to make that change at this stage of your career?
So I wanted to do something to take my space program expertise to solve the challenge of climate change. So I have an electric aviation company. So I want to do something to reduce the carbon footprint of air travel. And there aren't enough women and women of color who are aerospace technology entrepreneurs. So I wanted to do that because it was important for me for both those reasons.
So of course then you bring a NASA CV with you, but was it a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo kind of move, or did you do your round A and round B, things that are alien to many of us here in India?
So I've been to India once so far to see what the interest is in the electric aviation sector, and I'll be coming back again in the fall. But generally, we've raised capital off of several high net worth individuals. But certainly, if we have access to larger private equity from international players, that will make these things happen even faster. So I think the lack of capital is the primary problem that prevents new technologies from coming out there. And if a company like mine can really take off, we get to hire a bunch of engineers from anywhere, including India, but it's just the absence of that capital because it's concentrated in so few people that prevents these new innovations from happening.
Okay, without getting into specifics, which of course I don't grill you on, but when it comes to taking risk, anything you do is risk, right? And of course you have your projections. For a company trying to do something disruptive like you, which is break the aviation industry's reliance on fossil fuels, what is the kind of return period? Are we looking at 5 years, 10 years? What is the kind of things that you guys factor in?
If that is to me, it really depends upon how soon you can get the vehicles flying, and so you have to look at the different use cases. So if you can look at a cargo emergency response medevac use case, you can probably get that going in a 2 to 3 year time frame. So that's pretty fast. You can start generating revenues, and then in the 5 year time frame, you can think about actually carrying passengers around for urban air mobility. So this is something which is on the order of a 5 year return, not a 10, 15, 20 year return. So this is something which is
it is doable. You can do it. Okay, so I'm going to drop the onion in the room now. Arjun Hardas, why are the HNIs and the HNIs, I believe the definition in India is $1 billion plus is an HNI. Why aren't the HNIs in India looking at these? Why are we all going, let's do mutual fund and let's just buy Reliance stock and when we are sorted?
Quick returns. The ROI, the return of investment, is something you need patience for. And that is something that is, look, these people are not, okay, again,
so is it quick or is it stability? Are we not willing to take a risk that, okay, my investment doesn't pay in 5 years, no problem?
Comparative quick. Now, for example, many of these people that you're referring to, the HNIs, have probably never, most of them, if I can be bold enough to say 95% of them, have no contact with science, with R&D, with research.
You're probably right, yes.
Okay, so they have no scientific interest in the first place. And even if, let's say, L&T, let's say, has got this product, it's a private company, they make the steel, for example, for our submarines and ships. But this is after something which has been invested.
But again, I'm trying to decades. It's boggling my mind. It has been for a very long period of time, and I want to try to crack that. And Arjun, take this thought, and I want to go across the table. Is that why isn't private industry, why isn't the marketplace spotting that opportunity and connecting the people that have the money with the people that have the ideas? Where is that gap missing?
So two things here. One, it's beginning to happen. So which is good news. That's a second. That's a beginning. Let's say in the beginning right now, it's starting. Secondly, well, again, it's as I've just said, it's a beginning. So there has to be a beginning somewhere. But this will eventually take off. Again, it's as I've just said, it's a beginning. So there has to be a beginning somewhere. But this will eventually take off slowly because people, the globalization factor where Indians who have gone abroad, who have dealt with this kind of thing, they see the requirements.
Okay.
And then they come back and
so
say,
what changes?
okay, it takes time.
Professor Thakur, what changes? For example, you go back to Delhi University, is it? Where you're teaching physics and some bright student comes up with a brilliant project. Now 10 years ago, that would have been, oh, you know what, you should write a thesis and do a PhD out of this project. Has that changed? Will you now tell the same student, you know what, you're a great idea, let me put you in touch with an investor and you should start a company? Has that changed?
Because for me, if I get a chance, and for instance, I give you an example, if I need a small compressor and that should be a product of any company for instance, like refrigerator, and I need a compressor, but I need a low cost and efficient. But I think if I get money from the company, we can prepare this product, and the product will belong to the company.
But it's happening in the marketplace. If you get on a Kickstarter, you don't even need a product. You just need an idea and promise to have a product, and people put their money, group sourcing, crowdfunding. It does happen. Now there have been good case studies of that happening. Now here you're expected to sell your house or go to mummy daddy. I mean, that has to break, right?
Yeah, Rishabh.
Yeah, the General Service, take that thought.
See, my point is, Rishabh, the issue is, as on today, the private companies are looking for a demand. Their demand outside is not coming. So
but the demand is right here. We're buying these mobile phones.
So the issue is that R&D is not been developed, that all of a sudden they'll produce a state of art where they can compete with the world market.
But why not? Why can't? What is stopping us from setting up a silicon factory in this country?
So every step has to be taken a baby step. First, what I'm saying is, let us say the weapon system. I'm just giving me some time.
General, you got us back to weapon system. Though General has got us back to weapon system.
No, weapon system. Give it this some demand in your domestic, and then let them produce the state of art so that they can export. Until they don't export in outside, like I'll tell you what has happened to BrahMos. Now BrahMos is become a state of art. We are now, Vietnam is buying, the number of other countries are buying. Until unless you don't reach to that stage, these private companies are not going to come forward and going to invest the money. And you need R&D to invest the money. You need state of art. You can compete. So it is a catch-22 situation.
How do we find the profit motive? I'm trying to find out where do we find the profit motive in this? Where does the marketplace take over?
Some companies, Rishabh, for example, let's say like Mahindra, which has technically nothing to do with aviation, defense, or etc., has purchased an aviation company in Australia. Mahindra Defense, Tata's Defense.
Mahindra Defense is K9 Vajra.
That's L&T.
It has begun.
K9 is this M777.
Okay, M777 we're buying, sir. We're buying from the
No, they are also collaborating. The rest of them will
be this is happening. It's beginning to happen. And it will take time.
Not enough. 11 crore jobs we need to find in the next 5 years.
These companies that we are also talking to in the West, for example, Lockheed Martin, let's say, Lockheed as a company itself, they are 80, 90 years old. They also began literally from
zero. But it took a Jamshedji going and saying that, I'm going to set up the world Asia's largest steel foundry here, and he did it.
That was 120 years ago.
But he did it then. So we need that happening here. And Colonel Nain has been wanting to come in. Colonel Nain, come on, we can't be looking at a government solution to this. That can't be the solution. There has to be a private sector solution out there.
Well, Rishabh,
are we just afraid of taking risk?
Well, Rishabh, we have been discussing for last 20 minutes about how to get this private sector into it, but haven't got the absolute answer about it. You see, be it in the case of Dhanush, the artillery guns being produced indigenously by us now, or let's take the case of Tejas. I mean, a country in which our own public sector is taking interest to a tune that you are just spending 1.5% of your GDP, when countries like Oman spending 14%, Saudi Arabia 12%, Israel 6%, Russia 4.5%, even Bangladesh is spending about 1.5%. So it has to start. That's what I was mentioning earlier also. It has to start. Whether you started by force or by motivation, but it has to start.
Okay, it has to start. It has to start. General Asana wants to come in.
Yeah, I want to come in. And, as far as private sector getting in is concerned, let's first face few facts. The first fact is endurance for profit making is very less. Secondly, investment, they want to invest only when they are sure that this order is going to come to us. Now our processes are such that no major player, I have my personal experience on that, wants to put in his money unless he is assured an order.
Absolutely.
So, and he wants a level playing field as well, that don't protect your public sector industries as well. So, when he has to do that, the answer which we are getting now, and we are getting there now, in a manner that firstly you collaborate, secondly, when you collaborate, you ask for transfer of technology, then you start manufacturing here. So, one step at a time. Once this transfer of technology comes,
but what do we do? Do we need a genius grant? Do we need a, you know, what is it, the X prize? What do we need to do with worth $1 million to get this kick-started? Because I don't believe that government can run it, but you're right on the assured orders. It's not like the US government doesn't support Boeing and the Europeans don't support Airbus. That's exactly how it goes, Arjun.
The one factor when compared to what the general was saying, I would like to just bring in here. Recently, just a short 2 weeks ago, the Spike missile deal was cancelled. Okay, now this is a proven product by the Israelis. Because a public sector company has decided to assure the government that we will have a product less cost and more effective.
Well, I'm hoping
will they
they
deliver? Will they deliver? No,
Yes, I'm hoping
what
but our record, other than ISRO, has been atrocious. Let's be honest.
Protecting the public sector. That is the problem.
So should we just leave it off? Should we leave it off? Start with Air India and then
no, leave it open. Leave it open. Let them complete commercially.
The point which he told, please understand it in that this thing. That there was
can I come in here?
Karan, I'm coming to you next.
That public sector, that we can produce these missiles half the cost. But when will they produce? When will be available? The nation needs it, and that's why finally we have to go for the Israeli. So let's be practical on that.
Now let's take the case of Spike. You know what happened in Spike? When Spike trials were done, trials were successful. USA wanted to somehow stall that in a manner because they wanted to sell Javelin to us. And they didn't want us to conduct trial of Javelin because they say, no, my technology is superior, so I will not even bid for it. And they wanted us to take it without bidding. That was number one. Secondly, when we came to Spike, all of a sudden the DRDO comes up that, no, I have got a product and I will give it to you, which we did not deliver for last 20 years. And somehow the bureaucracy and everybody, that is where the production of public sector starts, that everybody got around and said, okay, forget it, let's give a chance to DRDO. And that chance never happened.
Okay, making a virtue out of a necessity. Colonel Len wants to come in. Colonel Len, go ahead.
Yeah, Rishabh, just see, it's basically not only that we produce something here in India, but then it has to be of a quality. Like, let me give an example about the DRDO. The 155 guns which we had got from the Hwitches from America, and another like 105 guns which we are already holding, or whether be it this 120 guns on our tanks. You know, the ammunition being produced by the DRDO or the manufacturing factories here is bursting into the barrels. There is a major problem which we are facing now in the defense also. So this kind of a production, or this kind of a, manufacturing indigenously, is not going to help us.
Okay, all right. Lots of problems. Yes, we know lots of problems. ISRO is having problems. The launch date, I've been told, has been deferred by at least 30 days. So yeah, there are problems, but of course we have to find solutions because we have found them in the past. India is changing. Arjun, India has changed. It is different. Then since, about the past 10 years, we've seen dramatic change happen in this country. So let's not kid ourselves. A lot more is to be done, and the same argument comes, do we need to grow the pie or slice up the pie? What needs to happen?
To repeat what I said a little while ago, level playing field has to be genuine. You cannot protect a government entity, a public sector unit, just because it's a public sector unit. You have to get rid of this myth that these people will look. We spoke about the missile, the Spike missiles. The Indian product, the Nag missile, is something I have heard of being mentioned in the news about undergoing trials since the 1980s. And it's still not ready.
Until now, it has not been.
It is still not ready.
Ready to give technology also.
And we will go back to
let's
this
come up with solutions, guys. We can nail this. We're supposed to be smart people.
Because of funds, lack of funds.
Okay, let's nail it across the board. Arjun, come up with some solutions. Now, what do? You say level playing field is number one. So, which means somebody needs to take the tough call that these PSUs with their unions need to be cleaned out one way or the other.
Completely. That is the biggest
problem. Can the Babudam in this country make that tough call?
That is the problem. Because what happens is, and I'm sorry, there are some bureaucrats or some defense officers, lots of them here, but there is this factor also about employment. The person that retires from the bureaucracy and gets employed with one of these PSUs.
Yes. Okay.
So the person has an incentive.
Okay. Modi's being forced retiring a lot of people.
One of these PSUs.
Yes. Okay.
So the person has an incentive.
Okay. Modi's being forced retiring a lot of people. I'm hoping that now extends to some of the non-performing PSUs, and that's they're being very firm on Air India's interview with Civil Aviation Minister. They are pretty gung-ho that they want to get rid of that. Maybe that applies to these. Okay. Solutions. Professor Dhaka, what do we need to do?
In fact, Rishabh, what I feel because we are working with the younger generation in the university, and my feeling is that we have to change the system of the university also, because in India we do not have the interaction outside that campus, and then we have to have.
No, but how many of the students? Give us a real life example. How many of the students go off for tours and for conferences or are building products that they're showcasing?
Very small. We should have the incubation center. We should have like a placement cell in every college and university.
Do you have, for example, a 3D printing lab in?
We do not have.
We don't have. We have an AI center which is being developed.
Even for small things like we have to have it from like Korea or from Japan. Even for small sensors, we are not able to design it here because there are a number of the problems. But of course, we are having good.
If we don't make silicon chips in this country, you can't make sensors. As simple as that.
Rishabh, before you go to your next guest, I'll just say this about practicality. Is that MIT, somebody may correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. MIT, for students who study nuclear physics, they have a practical nuclear reactor within campus.
Yeah, within campus, you're right.
That is how you study nuclear physics.
Okay, you don't study it theoretically on paper. Okay. General Sevas, let's find solutions. Let's find solutions. What do we need to do? And eventually we got to nail this, right? We can't keep getting frustrated and then let the next 12 crore Indians who will be looking for jobs in the next few years suffer for it.
Rishabh, we have to make our public sector competitive. The one which are sick, privatize them, sell them off. They are not needed. Let them now swim in along with the private thing. Let them compete with them. The time is gone now to shelter them. They must compete with the private sector, have a collaboration with public-private sector. That is the roadmap for future.
Okay, there's consensus on that, General Asana?
Public-private partnership, that is number one. Secondly, transfer of technology, and thereafter collaboration.
No, but transfer technology from where? Are we waiting for the Americans to give us?
Our companies must collaborate with the American companies, get the transfer of technology.
So can we do the Chinese model? Can we do the Chinese model that we'll give you cheap labor?
Why not?
But in return you give us all the tech.
Wherever possible, we must do it.
Dr. Neeta shaking her head. Okay, Dr. Neeta, come in on that thought. Go ahead.
So I think what the gentleman said earlier about closer collaboration between, let's say, Indian students around the world, I think that's key. I attend a lot of conferences. Obviously, I'm based in the United States, and I very rarely do see students from India collaborating in those kind of joint events. So I think if we can do more collaboration with Indian universities and U.S. and European universities, that's great. And same thing for international collaboration on the business sense. It definitely doesn't have to be anything related to just cheap labor. India has tremendously skilled labor on the engineering front. So I actually see joint ventures and partnerships in the development of key technologies and subsystems towards any major project, whether it's the space program, for aviation, or for ground-based mobility. So definitely engineering talent in India is already there, so we need to have joint ventures.
Okay, Dr. Neeta, just for pure business reasons, what would be something that would dramatically change your perception in you wanting to come to India and set up these companies here? What would be that X factor that would change your thought, just for purely business reasons, of course, personal reasons aside?
Oh, well, I actually already do want to do part of my business development in India, so I think it's just the process of me understanding what does it mean from a regulatory space, what does it mean from a paperwork perspective to be able to do business in India, but it's something that we want to do, and certainly on the avionics front and certainly on the flight software control front. So I think that's something that we want to do, and it's probably just me not being educated enough on the processes that I have to go through to be able to do that.
Okay, so maybe we need a frontline portal for that. It's been discussed for several years that entrepreneurs who want to come in here should be able to get this information. I've got good news for you. At least the budget has told us that the tax department ain't going to be going through your valuation with a fine-tooth comb anymore. Srishti, same thought to you. What would be the X factor that is going to make you get up tomorrow and say, listen, what, I want to start my own company. Here's my idea. I want to make 3D printers in India, or start the first, silicon chips can be made in the back of a garage, for God's sake. People can do that. I mean, they're not of course, viable on a commercial scale, but specialist silicon chips, the kind the professor here is talking about, can be made in the back of a garage. You can print them out literally. What would be that X factor, Srishti?
There has an X factor related to it in the past also, because I would go with the idea, because there is an empirical evidence that linking the R&D, what we are talking about, the research and development, and the economic growth. So there is an empirical evidence, and we have to just look into the kind of research that is being done and how it is being translated into innovative products, the services or the processes we are throwing. So yeah. The X factor.
Okay, yeah, R&D, but I can tell you stuff. I'm trying to do a lot of R&D in the broadcasting space, and it's breaking the mold is often very, very tough. I have a Alexa here now in our studios, which has been listening to us for some time, and we're trying to make some AI news replacement for people like me. So sit and talk. But okay, I got exactly about 6 minutes left, because we have our own countdown since the ISRO countdown has now been officially put on hold, and I want to use that for a productive exercise. What can we now do? Now, I am in a profession which is a communicative profession. Arjun, help me out. You've been a journalist. You've seen the world, traveled the world. What communicative exercise is required to get out there? I think DD is starting a startup channel soon, we are told. Well, what can we do? How can we help?
Maybe specialized programming to help, because the media, if you're talking about the media, how can the media provide this kind of a thing? Well, most of the media, except for Doordarshan, is now privatized. Is collaborate. Bring in more information. Inform the people about, let's say, the percentage of people who watch private television channel versus those who watch Doordarshan. I think is pretty much clear percentage.
Okay.
So if the private industries, private news channels have that kind of reach, all of them, compared to Doordarshan, let's say, which people unfortunately may not watch, is that bring in programming.
It's not easy, Arjun, breaking away from something stupid some politician said, which is spicier news. Okay, we've been trying to find space. I recommend our viewers watching this broadcast, and if you're watching this, if you go to the NewsX YouTube page, we've been doing a special series for the past 1 month called India Next, and we've done the first live 3D printing demonstration on live primetime television here in India, hopefully encouraging people. And I would love to take credit that was the show that led Nirmala Sitharaman to specifically mention 3D printing in a budget speech, but of course that would be a bit presumptuous. But on very, very practical things, Colonel Dhaka, what can we do now? We have a group of people sitting here. What can we do to change things?
Yeah, Rishabh, honestly, I'd like to share with you, because for universities and the college point of view, then probably we should have more freedom. For instance, like if you want to work on a particular project, very simple project you can take, like based on the data coming from the satellite. And you know, the 5% data of the satellite is used and 95% is still unused. We need the skill of the young people, and who can
let me
really,
ask you, let me just ask, my producer trying to tell me something. Just wait for me to finish the question, and then brief me.
Okay.
No, I'm telling my producer that, sir. My question to you, sir, is in a place of university like a Delhi University, not the universities in Delhi, and Delhi University is a premier university, supposed to be, right? That degree holds, trust me, holds a lot of value, because it's just tough to get in. So given that, do you offer data analytics, or do you have computer banks running algorithms that are helping researchers, just go through troves of data and doing data analysis? Does that actively happen?
Yeah, Rishabh, now the things have changed, because even now the second year and the third year students, they come for doing some internship, and especially I had like about 40-50 students during this summer vacation.
Yeah.
And they completed very nice, I think, document, especially for the electrical vehicles. They I think did a nice job that collected a lot of information. What should be the forecast for another like 10 years?
But what's that based on other than Google search?
No, we are having some collaboration that we started basically with some companies in Bangalore.
Yeah, but the problem here is if you're studying in American university right now, you have these data sets available, and they give you computing time on huge banks of computers to work out patterns with specialized algorithms. And if we are doing Google searches, we are in a lot of trouble.
I'm talking only directly. We are using the original data from satellite. Now, for instance, like I want to study about the climate change over northern India in the last 50 years. Then we are having the good data set now. And then the only thing that we need some kind of the budget, and probably if some private company is approaching us and they are interested. So we are not having that freedom.
Okay.
So
freedom, just let them do. I think. Let's set ourselves the task. Let me just let them do. I think. Let's set ourselves the task. Let me join in the best I can for what it's worth. Unfortunately, I'm not an eccentric billionaire. I wish I was. I would be up at 2 in the morning right now preaching to eccentric billionaires. But let's do that task. I think if we can fundamentally, if Delhi University has X number of about 20, 30, 40 colleges, set up one company in each of these colleges, I'm sure the kids out there who have ideas, we can do something, and I'd love to have them here and talk about their ideas, and I think that's certainly something that we can do.
I'll just take a few seconds, because I remember we started one project with the 10 students of the final year, and they produced like if you give 20 minutes, in 20 minutes they can produce the climate change in any place of the world. So that is the capability of the Indian students.
Okay, and I'm hoping the next time they'll be designing the software as well and not just using it. Just before I come to journalists, quickly, Dr. P.K. Ghosh join us. Dr. P.K. Ghosh, help us nail this. What do we do now? I mean, I refuse to be frustrated. There's obviously something that we can crack. We know we have problems, but we need to nail this. How do we do it, sir?
This nailing of the problem as far as the mission is concerned.
No, we're far away, so you joined this conversation a bit late. We're trying to solve the problem that is India, sir. And unlike Sound of Music, it's not the problem that was Maria.
Yeah, I think you were on the very much right track. That I wonder if you have noticed that most of our universities that we have, they carry out minimal research. In fact, I'm not even very happy with the premier organizations like IIT and others, which carry out minimum, and I've actually seen it, that the research level or the amount of technical research which they carry out in comparison to what they do in, for say in America.
Why? Explain to me why.
This is precisely
that these kids going there and that professors themselves would want to come up with a breakthrough, perhaps even with the motive of winning a Nobel Prize. I don't mind that as a motive. And maybe to make money, to set up a company and become the next Elon Musk.
No, there is a very big reason why they don't do it. And I've talked to a lot of professors. Firstly, there is no incentivization for research. That is, let's take the case of IITs. And I've got nothing against the IITs, mind you. For example, you take the very cream of the country for undergraduate courses. So you get absolute cream. But the moment you jump up to post-graduation level, there is no research worth the name. Of course, they do some research, but there's nothing worth the name, because there is no incentive to carry out
Explain to us incentive. In market terms,
it's
money that you publish a paper, here's $1,000.
Exactly. There is the incentives are, it may be monetary, it may be others. So that is not.
What do we do? Do we set up an X prize that say, okay, if you invent something, then when we're going to put up $1 million, the first person to crack this. I mean, that's been the front line, and I want to end it on that because I'm running out of time also. General Sivaj, from building the frontier railway in America, it was all about a prize. First person to reach the coast gets this pot of gold. Should we do that?
Absolutely correct. Generate competition within us. That is the requirement of the day, and you must encourage incentives. In case if you find someone is doing well, pay him off, let him produce the result. My point is that if someone has invested money and it is going down the drain, there will be no incentive for others. And another point is, let us in this university have exchange program. Let the students come from foreign abroad and our students going there. We are now curtailed in our own wealth. That is where we are now suffering. You know, our study system at the highest level need to change to be more practical, more possessive, more practical.
I don't know if anybody watching this broadcast has ever heard
what
of...
is the requirement of the day is that a state of art. We should able to complete the best of the best in the world. Then only you can survive.
Quick last word, Dr. Anita, I'll leave the last word with you as I took the first. We're running out of time in the broadcast. What would your advice be to young Indians watching this broadcast, both live on television and on YouTube subsequently? What would you tell them? How do you become an entrepreneur?
So I think to become an entrepreneur, you actually do have to have some skills and some experience. I'm actually not a big fan of just taking 22-year-old people and dropping them some cash. I don't think that's a good use of resources. So I think you should probably spend a couple of years in industry gaining experience on things you like to do, the things that you're good at, the things that you think need to be improved, and then you should go out there, make a business plan, and find investment. But I think the problem isn't insufficient capital in terms of what's actually available on planet Earth. It's the goal, the will of the people in a society to advance society forward and being willing to put the capital for projects like that. It shouldn't be about profit, it should be about progress.
Okay, I'm out of time, but I tell you what, I know it's early in the morning.
Can I come in for a minute?
Yeah, Colonel Nain, I'm absolutely out of time, sir. I'm sorry, but we will come back and have this conversation because we've run short and my countdown clock is absolutely over. So let's not leave it there. I would hate for this to have been an empty and vacuous exercise. The ISRO launch will happen 30 days ago, but I'd like an opportunity to invite all of you back. Let's have this conversation maybe in a week or so, and let's take our practical exercise. Yes. There is something that we can certainly do. I don't know whether that is taking up a particular project in the university or profiling a particular amount of students.
Just one
yeah,
point.
Gentlemen, okay, sir. Colonel, since you're insisting, sir, take the 10 seconds, sir.
Just Rishabh, see, we as a nation are a 3 trillion economy today, growing at the rate of 15 to 18%. And whatever we are, you see, all the countries, whether USA, China or USSR, everybody, they know it's a big market. Yeah. So we should explore this also.
But we need to supply the market from here, sir. We don't want the Chinese to be giving us 5G, but which they'll end up, and that 5G itself is $1 trillion. The $3 trillion economy is not good enough. You need to be at 5 trillion. If you want to lift out people out of poverty, just dividing up the slice ain't going to happen, and that's what market economics has taught us for a very long period of time. But like I said, I hate for this to be a vacuous exercise. Let's take it up productively. I would like to come back, hopefully with a few people, and find out what we now need to do just to get fundamentally young people out there thinking on how to be entrepreneurs, maybe with, as Dr. Anita says, with a few years of experience. So maybe not fresh out of college, but with a few years of professional experience, and in a profitable enterprise. And I can tell you, broadcast media, not a profitable enterprise. We'll leave it there. Good night.